Rain lashed the windows of my cramped Seattle apartment like it had a grudge against the night. Mia's laughter cut through the storm a moment too late after my terrible joke about Victorian poets drowning in their own metaphors. Then her hand lingered on mine as she slid the annotated copy of Wuthering Heights across the coffee table, her fingers warm and steady where mine trembled just a fraction too much. We had been at it for hours, finals looming like thunderheads over the University of Washington campus. Mia sprawled on the worn rug, her sketchpad forgotten in favor of highlighting passages that made her eyes light up like city lights on Puget Sound. She was the art major, the one who saw colors in words I only read in black and white. I was Ava, the literature drone, buried in essays and footnotes, pretending my world made sense on paper. 22 and still figuring out why my chest tightened every time she tucked a curl behind her ear or sighed over a line about forbidden longing. Tonight she had texted me around 7, her words casual as always. Study session at yours. Bring snacks. I can't face my dorm's fluorescent hell alone. I had replied with a thumbs up, my heart doing that stupid flip it always did around her. Mia had been my roommate freshman year until she moved into the arts building for the natural light. We stuck, though inseparable, in that effortless way friends fall into. Movie marathons at the Harvard Exit Theater, rainy hikes in Discovery Park, her dragging me to open mic nights where she doodled portraits of strangers while I nursed overpriced IPAs. The clock on my microwave blinked 10:30, the blue glow casting shadows across her face as she read aloud. Heathcliff's Love It's a Storm, she said, her voice soft like she was confessing to the book itself. Not gentle. Not safe. But real enough to tear you apart. What do you think, Ava? Ever felt that? I swallowed the sip of chamomile tea gone cold in my mug. My throat felt tight like the words were stuck there with all the things I never said. Yeah. Once or twice. I lied, smooth as the fog rolling in from the bay. Truth was, I had never felt anything that wild. Not with the guys I'd dated in high school, awkward fumblings in basements that left me more confused than alive. Not even with Jake, the barista from the campus cafe, who smiled like he meant it but kissed like he was reading a script. Mia set the book down, her gaze flicking to mine, holding just a beat too long. The rain eased to a patter, and in the quiet I heard her breathe out, slow, deliberate. You're quiet tonight. Everything okay? She tilted her head that way she did when she was sketching, sizing up the lines of a face. I forced a smile, shrugging as I tucked my legs under me on the couch. Just tired. Finals brain. You know how it is. She nodded, but her eyes narrowed a fraction, the artist's eye catching what I tried to hide. The way my laugh came out forced, or how I kept stealing glances at the curve of her neck where her hair fell loose. We pushed on, diving into Emily Dickinson next, her short lines like breaths held too long. Mia paced as she recited, quoting feverishly about the soul selecting her own society. She stopped mid-stride, turning to me with that fire in her eyes. That's us, right? We chose each other. Out of the whole damn world. My pulse stuttered. I wanted to say yes, to lean into the pull of her words like gravity. Instead I mumbled something about footnotes and flipped pages too fast. She dropped back to the rug closer, now her knee brushing mine. The contact sent a spark up my leg, one I chalked up to static from the wool blanket. By midnight the tea was gone, replaced by the last of my roommate's leftover Pinot from a party I had skipped. Mia poured us each a splash, her movements graceful like she was mixing paints. To Heathcliff and bad decisions she toasted, clinking her mug against mine. I laughed, real this time, the wine warming the edges of my nerves. We talked then not about books but about the mess of life. Her story spilled out first, how her abuela back in Portland had taught her to draw with charcoal scraped from the backyard, how she dreamed of murals that covered whole buildings in the Mission District someday. Mexican-American through and through, she said with a wry smile, tracing the rim of her mug. But stuck here in this gray city, missing the sun on my skin. I listened, nodding as the wine loosened my tongue. Told her about growing up in Spokane, the endless winters, the way my parents' library felt like the only warm place in the house. Dad with his history tomes, Mom lost in romance novels that made me roll my eyes even as I snuck peeks. They thought I was their straight-A golden girl, the one who'd marry some nice engineer and give them grandkids. I didn't tell Mia the rest, how those novels lingered in my mind, the women with fire in their veins, the glances that promised more than safety. How lately those thoughts wore her face. The storm picked up again, thunder rumbling distant over the Olympics. Mia shivered, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. Cold. She murmured, scooting closer until our sides pressed together. Heat bloomed where we touched and I froze, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. She smelled like lavender and graphite, the scent of her dorm room after a late night sketching. Ava. She said my name soft like a question. Her hand found mine again, this time not accidental, fingers lacing slow, tentative. I looked at her, then really looked, the way her lips parted just a fraction, her chest rising, falling in rhythm with the rain. My mind raced a whirlwind of shoulds and can't. This was Mia, my best friend, the one who knew my coffee order and my fears about graduating into a world that felt too big. What if I ruined it? What if this storm passed and left wreckage? But her thumb traced a circle on my knuckle and the world narrowed to that point of contact. I turned my palm up, catching her hand fully. Mia. I whispered back. Her eyes searched mine, dark and deep as the sound at midnight. She leaned in first, her breath warm against my cheek. The kiss was soft at first, a question, lips brushing like pages turning. Then deeper, hungrier, as if all the unsaid words poured into it. My free hand found her hair, threads of silk slipping through my fingers. She tasted like wine and salt, a sigh escaping as she pressed closer. Time blurred, the rain, the books, the clock, all fading to the beat of her heart against mine. We pulled back, gasping, her forehead to mine. What are we doing? I breathed the words, half laugh, half fear. She smiled, that crooked artist's grin tracing my jaw with her fingertips. Studying. She said simply. The most important kind. Laughter bubbled up, breaking the tension, and we dissolved into it, tangled on the couch, the blanket a cocoon against the night. But as the giggles faded, her expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering in her eyes. Ava. I've wanted this. For so long. Longer than I meant to admit. My stomach twisted, not in regret but in the ache of recognition. Me too. I confessed, the words tumbling free. But I'm scared. Of us. Of what comes next. She nodded, understanding in the tilt of her head. Me too. But maybe that's the point. The storm part. We held each other then, no more words, just the quiet rhythm of breath syncing with the rain. Morning crept in, gray light filtering through the blinds. We hadn't slept much, whispering secrets until dawn. Mia traced patterns on my arm, lazy swirls that made me shiver. What now? She asked, voice thick with sleep and something softer. I propped on an elbow, looking down at her hair fanned across the pillow. Breakfast. I said, decisive. Then we figure it out. She grinned, pulling me back down. Deal? We rose slow, making coffee in my tiny kitchen, bumping hips and stealing kisses over the hiss of the percolator. The city woke around us, fairy's horn cutting through the mist. Mia sketched me, then quick lines capturing the flush on my cheeks, the way my eyes softened. You're beautiful. She murmured, setting the pad aside. I blushed, ducking my head. So are you. Always were. But as we dressed for the day, the weight settled. Classes loomed, friends had asked questions, the world outside that didn't bend easy. I caught her reflection in the window, staring out at the drizzle, her shoulders tense. Hey. I said, slipping behind her, arms around her waist. One step. She leaned back into me, sighing deep. One step. The campus buzzed under a rare sliver of blue sky that afternoon, students spilling from lecture halls like ants from a hill. Mia and I walked hand in hand, at first hidden in the crowd, then bolder fingers linked as we crossed Red Square. Whispers followed us, or maybe that was just my paranoia, the echo of my own heartbeat too loud. She squeezed my hand, grounding me. Ignore them. She said low. They're just jealous of our excellent study habits. I laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in weeks. We headed to the Henry Art Gallery, her favorite haunt, where the light slanted through glass walls onto canvases that bled color. Inside, the hush wrapped around us like a secret. She pulled me to a Rothko, a field of deep plums and bruised blues. See this? She said, tracing the air above the canvas. It's like last night. All that space, but the emotion right there pressing in. I nodded, throat tight. Yeah. Pressing. My hand found the small of her back, thumb circling slow. She leaned into it, eyes closing for a breath. We wandered, then lost in the exhibits, her commentary weaving stories into the abstracts, mine adding the literary ghosts. Dickinson in the whites, Dickinson in the voids. By the time we emerged, the sun dipped low, painting the quad in gold. Hunger hit us both, and we detoured to a food truck parked near Drumheller Fountain, the air thick with cumin and grilled corn. Mia ordered elotes, her eyes lighting as the vendor slathered mayo and cotija. Try it. She insisted, holding an ear to my lips. I took a bite, the flavors bursting, tangy and sweet like her laugh. We ate on a bench overlooking the fountain, water sparkling in the fading light. Her knee pressed mine, casual, intimate. Tell me something true, she said, suddenly popping a kernel into her mouth. No filters. I hesitated, the wine from last night still buzzing in my veins. Okay. I started slow. I used to think love was like in those books. Grand gestures, rescues from cliffs. But this? Sitting here with you. It's quieter. Realer. She's still chewing, slowing. Her gaze dropped to her lap, then up, meeting mine steady. That's the best kind, she said softly. The one that grows slow like roots underground. Dusk fell as we walked back to my place, the streets alive with buskers and couples mirroring us. At my door she paused, key in hand, her expression shifting to something shadowed. Ava. About Jake. I know you two were talking. My stomach dropped, the name a stone in still water. Jake, the barista with the easy smile and the habit of leaving notes in my coffee cups. We weren't serious, I said, quick, too quick. Just coffee. Flirting. Nothing like this. She searched my face, doubt flickering. But he's nice. Safe. And she trailed off, biting her lip. I cupped her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks. You're everything, Mia. The storm and the calm. Don't doubt that. She exhaled, leaning into my touch. Okay. Okay. We tumbled inside, then shedding jackets and doubts in the hall. The evening unfolded, lazy pizza delivery on the coffee table, a rom-com flickering on my laptop. But midway through her laugh faltered, her head on my shoulder. What's wrong? I murmured, fingers in her hair. She shifted, sitting up, knees to chest. It's just my family. Abuela, she's old school. Catholic through and through. Last time I visited Portland she asked about boyfriends. Again. I tensed, the reality seeping in like chill through cracks. What did you say? I asked, careful. Leet. She admitted, voice small. Said I was focused on school. But if she knew about us, it'd break her heart. Or worse. The silence stretched heavy, her eyes glistening. I pulled her close, rocking gentle. Hey. Well, tell them when you're ready. Or not. This is ours first. She nodded against my neck, but the sigh she let out lingered like smoke. Night deep in the movie forgotten. We lay tangled, sheets twisted from restless turns. Her breathing evened, but mine raced, thoughts circling like gulls over the bay. What if she was right? What if this quiet love couldn't withstand the world's weight? I traced her spine, the curve of her hip, memorizing in case dawn brought regrets. But she stirred, murmuring my name, sleep slurred. Stay. She whispered, hand finding mine. Always. I promised, kissing her temple. Sunday brought markets in motion, the Pike Place throng, a bomb against the ache. Mia dragged me through stalls, tossing coins to buskers buying lavender sachets and salmon jerky. At the original Starbucks she queued for lattes, her hips swaying to an invisible rhythm. I watched, mesmerized, the way the crowd parted for her like she carried light. Back outside we leaned on the railing, overlooking the water ferries cutting white wakes. She handed me my cup, foam heart swirled on top. For you, she said, winking. My heart. We talked dreams, then her of galleries in San Francisco, mine of a quiet life teaching lit to kids who hated it at first. But under the words ran the current of fear. What if we graduate and scatter? I voiced it low, watching a gull wheel. Seattle to Portland, a 3-hour drive, but worlds apart. She set her cup down, turning to face me. Then we fight for it, she said, fierce. Letters, calls, weekends in the woods. Whatever it takes. Her hand on my arm burned promise. I believed her then, in the salt air and her steady gaze. Afternoon found us in Capitol Hill, wandering Broadway's eclectic pulse, tattoo parlors and vintage shops spilling onto sidewalks. She pulled me into a bookstore, narrow shelves groaning under tomes. In the poetry section she found a worn Auden, pressing it into my hands. Read this later, she said. About the spaces between. I slipped it into my bag, the weight comforting. Outside, a street artist sketched passers-by and Mia insisted on a portrait, us side by side, her pencil flying. The likeness startled me, our smiles mirrored, tentative and true. Dinner was Thai takeout on my fire escape, the city lights twinkling below like fallen stars. Spice burned our tongues and laughter flowed easy until her phone buzzed. She glanced at its screen glow, illuminating her frown. Mom, she said, terse. Wants to know if I'm eating right. I nodded, careful. Call her. I'll clean up. She hesitated, then stepped inside, voice low in Spanish rhythms I caught only edges of. Mi vida. Sí, mama. Todo bien. When she emerged, eyes red-rimmed, I held out a fortune cookie. Crack it, I said, soft. She did, paper unfurling. A friend is a gift you give yourself, she read, voice cracking on the last word. We both laughed, wet and real, collapsing into each other. The night turned tender again, kisses slow as melting wax. But in the quiet after, her whisper came. I love you, Ava. Simple as breath. My heart seized the words, a gift heavier than any book. I love you too, I echoed, pulling her closer. The city hummed on, oblivious. Monday crashed in with classes and chaos. I sat in seminar dissecting Bronte, my mind wandering to her, the ghost of her touch on my skin. Notes blurred, her text buzzed mid-lecture. Meet after. Arboretum. Sunset. Heart racing, I typed yes. The arboretum sprawled, wild paths winding through rhododendrons now bare. I found her by the Japanese garden, stones mossed and still. She sat sketching the koi pond, her face lit golden by the dying sun. Hey stranger, I said, dropping beside her. She grinned, tucking the pad away. Missed you. Even if it's been hours. We walked, then, hands swinging, the air crisp with fallen leaves. At a bench overlooking the azaleas, she stopped, pulling a small canvas from her bag. For you, she said, shy. It was us from the gallery, plums and blues swirling into forms entwined. I traced the lines, throat tight. It's perfect. Thank you. She blushed, ducking her head. Like you. Dusk deepened, stars pricking the velvet sky. We lay on the grass, her head on my chest, listening to the rustle of branches. What if this is it? She murmured. The peak. Before life pulls us. I tightened my arm around her. Then we climb higher. Together. Her sigh was content this time, fingers lacing mine. Together. But Tuesday brought the fracture. Jake's text came during lunch, casual as ever. Coffee. Miss our chats. I stared at the screen, guilt twisting. Mia and I hadn't labeled it yet, but it felt solid, her laugh in my kitchen this morning, still warm. I deleted it, thumb hovering. Then her voice behind me. Ava. She stood, tray in hand, eyes on my phone. Jake. The name hung between us. I turned, explaining quick the nothing of it. But her face closed like a book snapped shut. It's fine, she said, voice even. Just. Be careful, okay? We ate in near silence, the cafeteria din mocking us. After, she walked away fast, leaving me with the ache of unspoken fears. Evening found me at her dorm, the arts building, a hive of paint and noise. She opened the door, paint-streaked cheeks flushed. Come in, she said, pulling me to her easel. A new piece half-formed, storms in ochre and indigo. We talked around it, skirting the edge until I couldn't. Mia. About Jake. It's over. Before it started. She set her brush down, turning slow. I know, she said, soft. I trust you. But trust is hard when you're scared of losing. I crossed the room, taking her hands. I'm not going anywhere. The kiss that followed was fierce, claiming all the doubts. We tumbled to her bed, laughter mingling with gasps, the room spinning with turpentine and us. After, in the tangle, she traced my collarbone. Promise me, she whispered. No more ghosts. I promise. I breathed, sealing it with lips to skin. Wednesday healed us, coffee at her favorite spot near the lock, salmon leaping as seals barked. We watched, feeding crumbs to pigeons, her head on my shoulder. The world felt possible then, love a quiet force, steady as tide. Thanksgiving loomed a week away, the campus thinning as families summoned students home. Mia and I planned a road trip, Portland, her turf, my first real dive into her world. Pack light, she texted Wednesday night. Abuela's tamales wait for no one. I grinned, folding jeans into my duffel, the Auden tucked inside like a talisman. My parents had grumbled over the phone, Spokane to Portland, a detour from tradition, but I held firm. Friends, I said, vague. Important ones. Friday dawn, we loaded my old Civic, rain-slick streets gleaming under sodium lamps. She drove first, playlist humming indie folk, her hand on my thigh, shifting gears. The drive unwound, I, 5 a ribbon through evergreens, mist clinging to the cascades. We stopped at a diner in Chahala's pie, steam rising as we split a slice of huckleberry tart. Her stories flowed, Abuela's kitchen, the scent of masa and Chili's holidays where music drowned out arguments. Dad left when I was 10. she said, fork pausing. Mom worked doubles. Art was my escape. I covered her hand, listening, the weight of it settling. By noon Portland unfolded, bridges arching over the Willamette, roses defiant in November chill. She navigated to her mom's bungalow in Selwood, roses climbing the fence though bare now. The door flew open, her mom enveloping her in hugs, dark hair streaked, gray eyes sharp as MIA's. "And you must be Ava," she said, warm, pulling me in. "Mia speaks of you always." Heat rose in my cheeks, but Mia winked over her shoulder. "Blushing already?" The house breathed life, photos lining walls, Mia gap-toothed at 5 easel set up in the dining room, half-finished abstracts. We helped in the kitchen chopping onions, tears stinging as laughter cut through. Her mom asked gentle questions about school, Seattle, the future. "Literature, huh? Like my sister," she said, stirring pozole. "She writes now in Eugene. Keeps the family stories alive." Mia bumped my hip. "AVS got stories. The ones that make you feel." Her mom smiled, glancing between us, something knowing in it. Abuela arrived, evening taxi pulling up, her frame small but fierce, cane tapping. "Bienvenidas," she crowed, kissing cheeks. Mia translated, whispers, her arm around the old woman's waist. We ate, then table groaning, turkey fused with mole, laughter loud over clinking forks. Abuela grilled me Spanish rapid, her eyes twinkling. Mia groaned, but I leaned in, trying phrases learned from Duolingo. "Mucho gusto," I said, clumsy. She patted my hand, nodding approval. Night fell early, the house settling to murmurs. Mia and I shared her old room, twin beds pushed together, blankets piled high. Lying awake, her fingers found mine in the dark. "Thank you," she whispered. "For this." I squeezed back. "For you." Sleep came, slow dreams tangled with scents of spice, and her breath even beside me. Saturday dawned crisp, we escaped to the city core, MIA's favorite haunts. Powell's city of books, a labyrinth, shelves towering to ceilings. She lost me in sci-fi, I emerged with Atwood, her grin wide. "Predictable," she teased, kissing my temple, quick hidden in the stacks. Lunch at a food cart, pod carts belching smoke, we split falafel wraps, wandering to the waterfront. The river churned, brown gulls wheeling as freighters moaned. She leaned on the railing, wind tugging curls. "This is home," she said, soft. "Messy but mine." Afternoon took us to the Saturday market under Burnside Bridge, artisans hawking wares, drums pulsing. She bought me a silver cuff etched with waves, fitting it to my wrist. "For the storms," she said, eyes deep. We wandered hand in hand, Boulder here away from campus eyes. A puppeteer drew a crowd, strings dancing, and she pulled me close, swaying to the rhythm. "Your turn," she murmured, guiding my hands. We moved awkward, then fluid, laughter bubbling as strings tangled. Sunset found us on the East Bank, Esplanoma trail, lights flickering on. She stopped at a bench, unpacking her sketchpad, capturing the skyline, bridges glowing like veins. I watched the concentration furrow her brow, the way her tongue peaked. "Beautiful," I said, meaning all of her. She glanced up, smiling crooked. "You too. Always." The kiss there was slow, deepening with the dusk, her hands framing my face. Back at the house, dinner was quiet, Abuela napping early, her mom clearing plates with knowing glances. Mia and I washed dishes, suds flying, her hip bumping mine. "So," her mom said later over tea in the living room. "You two seem close." Mia froze, cup midway to lips. I nodded, heart pounding. "Yeah. We are." Her mom smiled soft. "Good. Life's too short for anything less." MIA's exhale was relief, her hand finding mine under the table. But bedtime brought the shadow. Abuela woke, wandering to the kitchen, cane thumping. We found her at the table, photo album open to Mia young with a boy from church, awkward smiles. "Nieta," she said, pointing. "When wedding?" Mia knelt, explaining, gentle in Spanish, her voice steady. "Abuela. I'm happy now. With Ava." The old woman frowned, confusion creasing. "But he's nice boy." Mia shook her head, tears welling. "This is my nice. My love." Silence stretched, Abuela's eyes searching, then softening. "Ah," she murmured, patting Mia's cheek. "Amor es amor." Simple as that. Relief crashed through us, hugs exchanged, tears wiped. In bed later, Mia curled into me, shaking. "I thought she'd hate me," she whispered. "Never." I soothed, stroking her back. "She's wise. Sees you. Us. Her breathing even sleep claiming her, but mine lingered the weight of acceptance sweet. Sunday we drove back, rain returning as if summoned. Stops at viewpoints, mists cloaking valleys, her hand in mine over the console. Seattle welcomed us, gray but home. At my apartment we unloaded bags, tumbling inside, kisses hungry with the road's memory. The week blurred classes, projects, but weekends wove us tighter, hikes in the Olympics, her sketching trails, me reading aloud from the bluff. December frosted the city, evergreens dusted white. We decorated my place, string lights twinkling over books, tinsel on the ficus. Her gift arrived early, a leather journal, pages blank for my words. Inside note, for the stories we write together. Mine for her, a set of brushes, sable soft. She teared up, hugging tight. Perfect. But mid-month the call came. Jake's voice over the line, hesitant. Heard about you and Mia. From a friend. Congrats. But Ava. If it doesn't work. The words stung, but I cut him gentle. It will. Thanks though. Hanging up I stared at the window, snow flurrying. Mia found me, their arms around from behind. Everything okay? Yeah. I said, turning into her. Ghosts banished. Holidays parted us, me to Spokane, her to Portland, trains and planes bridging the gap. Texts flew, photos of snowmen and tamales, her voice notes husky with missing you. New Year's we rang in separate but synced countdowns, her face on screen, midnight kiss through pixels. Resolution, more of this. She said, eyes bright. Us. January thawed, slow, campus stirring with spring quarter buzz. We audited a film class together, noir flickering in the dark, her commentary whispering, plots twisted like our fears once. Dates multiplied, coffee at Victrola, walks along the locks, her feeding me sketches like secrets. One night fever hit her, flew from a drafty studio. I played nurse, soup simmering in her dorm, her head in my lap. Delirious she murmured stories, half Spanish confessions of first crushes on girls in high school, hidden in diary locks. I held her through chills, soothing with tales of Bronte sisters defying norms. Dawn broke, her fever gone, eyes clear. My hero. She croaked, grinning. I kissed her forehead. Always. Valentine's we escaped to Bainbridge Island, ferry rocking gentle. Picnic on the beach, oysters and chocolate wind whipping. She drew hearts in sand, waves erasing but reforming. Like us. She said, lacing fingers. Erased, reformed. I pulled her close, salt on lips. Forever. Spring bloomed, cherries pink against blue skies. Graduation loomed, specters of futures diverging. Job offers trickled, mine a TA gig at UW, hers a fellowship in San Francisco. Distance a specter, 3 hours by car, worlds by dream. We talked late nights, maps spread, pros cons weighed. Panic crested one evening, her studio paint cans toppled. What if we fade? She said, voice breaking, brush clattering. I knelt, gathering her hands. Then we don't. Visits, weekends, calls till dawn. Love like this it bends. Doesn't break. She nodded, tears tracking paint. Promise. Again. I promised, sealing with salt and skin. Commencement came, caps tossed, confetti rain. Families mingled, her mom hugging me tight, abuela from afar winking. We walked, then gowns shed, hands free. The future stretched open, uncertain but ours. Summer unfurled, lazy heat waves shimmering off asphalt. We sublet a cabin near Hood Canal, firs whispering secrets to the inlet. Days blurred, kayaking strokes sinking with breaths, her laughter echoing off bluffs. Evenings, fire pit crackling, marshmallows toasting golden as her skin in the glow. Stories spun, tall tales of adventures yet to come, her head on my knee as I read from the journal now filling with our fragments. Snippets of mornings, her curls in sunlight, the curve of her laugh lines when joy creased her face. One dusk we hiked to a overlook, waves crashing below like applause. She spread a blanket, unpacking wine and cheese, her artist's eye framing the vista. To us. She toasted clinking plastic cups. The women we are. I sipped the tart bite, mirroring the twist in my chest. Mia. About San Francisco. The words hung heavy as the marine layer rolling in. She set her cup down, turning to face the sea. Yeah. She said, soft. It's a dream. Murals in the mission community, not some sterile gallery. I nodded, throat tight. And mine here. Teaching. Building a life. Distance. The word landed like a stone ripple spreading. She took my hand, tracing veins like rivers on a map. 3 hours. She said, practical. Drives, weekends. Or I commute. Hell, we could meet in Olympia halfway. Laughter bubbled tentative, easing the knot. Optimist. I teased, leaning into her. Realist. She countered, kissing my temple. Night deepened, stars wheeling overhead. We lay tracing constellations, her finger drawing lines between points. Orion, she said, voice dreamy. The hunter. But what if he's just lost? Looking for home. I turned to her profile, silvered in moonlight. Then he finds it. In the quiet spaces. Her hand found my waist, pulling close. Found you. She murmured, lips brushing mine. The kiss unfolded, slow, deepening with the tide's pull, bodies aligning like poems long awaited. Back in Seattle, August pressed, humid farewells looming. Her flight south booked, mine to orientation. We packed her studio boxes labeled Art Books S. One night panic gripped her, tears hot on my shirt. What if the city swallows me? She choked. What if I'm not enough? I held her, fierce, rocking. You're everything. The spark, the color. San Francisco will bend to you. As I do. Departure day dawned, brutal sun mocking the ache. Airport drop off, her bag slung easy, duffel of dreams. Check-in line snaking, we clung, kisses stolen fierce. Call tonight. She said, eyes glistening. Every night. I nodded, throat closing. Love you. Always. The gate swallowed her, wave fading in the throng. Drive home, blurred, tears salting the wheel. First week stretched, calls at odd hours, her voice crackling with static but alive. Descriptions poured in to carry us alive, with mariachi murals blooming under her brush. Miss you. Shed say soft. Miss your quiet. ID recount classes, kids eyes lighting on Austin for the first time. Miss your fire. Wed laugh, planning visits, midpoint motels, stolen weekends. October brought her north rain, slicking the vines as we toured Willamette Valley wineries. Glasses clinking over charcuterie, her cheeks flushed from Pinot. To middles. She toasted, eyes deep. The places we meet. Laughter flowed easy but underran the strain, calls, missed drives cancelled for deadlines. One night post-tasting in a roadside inn, she turned from the window, expression shadowed. Ava. This is hard. She admitted, voice small. The pull. I crossed to her, arms around. It is. But worth it. You're worth it. November circled back, Thanksgiving, Portland again, Abuela's table richer with stories. She grilled Mia on the city progress on canvases, acceptance glowing in her nod. Your girl. She said to me later, arm linked. Keeps the light. I blushed, nodding. She does. Mia caught it, grinning over pie. What secrets? Abuela winked. The good ones. Winter solstice, we met in Portland's holiday market, lights strung like promises. She bought mistletoe, twine kissed, hanging at Rogue. Kiss for luck. She murmured under the bow, crowd blurring. The New Year dawn, joint resolution video call synced, fireworks bursting behind us. This year. She said, fierce. Closer. Spring greened the bay, her fellowship extended, canvases shipping north. Job hunt for me stretched, but a adjunct spot in Portland flickered hope. We plotted moves, timelines bending like willows. May brought her fully, bags unpacked, and a North Mississippi Avenue walk up, sunlight flooding the studio space. My turn, summer sublet ended, lease signed sight unseen. Unpacking day, sweat and songs, radio blaring, salsa, her hips swaying as boxes emptied. That night, first in our space, bed unmade, sheets tangled, we lay spent. Home. She whispered, hand on my heart. Yeah. I echoed, fingers in her hair. Ours. Years folded, gentle routines weaving. My classes mornings, chalk dust on slacks, her studio afternoons, paint under nails. Evenings, walks along the river, her sketching passers-by, me reading drafts aloud. Conflicts came, small arguments over dishes or deadlines dissolved in apologies soft as dawn. Abuela's passing came, swift spring rain, her hand in MIAs to the end. Funeral, quiet words in Spanish, eulogies of fire and grace. After, in the kitchen sorting photos, Mia traced a faded print, her young self, easel in hand. She taught me to see. She said, voice thick. The beauty in breaks. I held her, then the house echoing with ghosts but warm with us. Milestones marked graduations, now mine, master's cap tossed, her cheers loudest. Her first solo show, gallery walls alive with storms in Siena, our story in strokes. Opening night, crowd milling her in black dress, eyes finding mine across the room. Sold out. She whispered later, champagne fizzing. Because of you. We danced then slow in the empty space, her head on my shoulder. 10th anniversary crept quiet hike to Multnomah Falls, mist kissing our faces. Picnic spread, wildflowers tucked in her hair. She pulled a canvas small wrapped for the decade. Unfurled at us again, evolved lines softer, intertwined, eternal. Tears pricked, I pulled the journal now thick from my pack. Our story. Pages turned, words blooming from those first rainy nights. Now in the quiet of middle years her murals grace the city, mine words and anthologies, shared readings. Daughters not yet but dreams whispered late nights. The world shifted, kinder ripples from our small stand. Love, she says, often simple as breath. The kind that roots deep weather storms. And in the hush after laughter or before sleep I think of that night, the rain, the hand, the kiss that cracked the world open. Not grand, not scripted. Just us. Real as the beat beneath. Leaving echoes of grace in the spaces between.